Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be kind of taking a trip back to my past a bit. I'm going to be talking about Pepperdine University. For those of you who don't know, I'm just going to give a quick, brief little spiel. I got my master's in clinical psychology from Pepperdine University. I did an online graduate program and I graduated in 2023. I filmed many videos talking about my experience there. If you search my YouTube name, which is just Denalen_Pepperdine, I'm sure a lot of them will come up. So if you're looking for more specific to one topic content, I would suggest doing that. I didn't really have the best time at Pepperdine, and so it's just like filming these videos is just kind of just reliving past mistakes in a way. But I've still been getting quite a few questions on Instagram or through the past videos I filmed talking about it. And if I can help you guys, help you make your decision, or I don't know, just give you peace of mind for something, I'd like to do that. So here we are. I get a lot of repetitive questions, so I kind of just compiled them into a list. So let's get started. So the first question is, what did you write for your personal statement? Did you tie in their missions and values into your statement or mention any certain professors? So I am actually going to pull up, I still have my personal statement. Don't worry, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. But I have not read this probably since I submitted it. So I guess the first paragraph, I talked a bit about why I wanted to go into the field, why I wanted to help people, kind of a more personal backstory, if you will. In the second paragraph is where I talked about my experience in my undergrad, extra certificates I had gotten, specific courses that I liked and ones that I thought challenged me a bit more. During my undergrad, I also took some graduate level courses, so I mentioned that and how I felt like that would help me excel in the program. During my undergrad, I did do a field placement, which is essentially an unpaid internship. So in the third paragraph, I discussed that and what I did. If you have any relevant experience, even like volunteering, I would highly suggest putting that in there in any personal statement, at least for this field. And then, yes, I did mention specific professors a bit. In the next paragraph, I talked about what interests me most, what niche things interested me most about the field, and professors at Pepperdine that I think would benefit me, and what my intentions were after I got the degree. Next paragraph, wow, this is quite long. I talked about what program I was applying for, why I specifically liked or chose this program, like specific things about it, and kind of tied that into why I wanted to go to this school. And in the very last paragraph, it was basically just a summary wrap up of everything that I had put in my letter, or I guess personal statement, not really letter. There you have it. That's what it was. If I had any summary tips, it would pretty much be talk about experience in this field. And honestly, most career fields, they care way more about experience than they do about random things of yeah, I took this class, I took this class. As I mentioned in mine, it can be helpful to point out some classes that you think are specifically relevant to the degree you're applying for, but it's not necessarily necessary to, mention your GPA or whatever, because chances are they're already gonna know that or see that. And by the time that the person is reading your personal statement, they don't really care. And I mean, it's a personal statement, so make it personal. The next question is, does it say online on your diploma? I get this question so often, and I understand why, but the answer is no. It does not say it was an online degree. It doesn't specify at all. It has a lot of wording on it, so before I filmed this, I specifically double checked, but no, it doesn't say anything about that. It just says that this was awarded by Pepperdine University, the normal stuff. The next question, can you work full-time while in school? I do know people who did it. I personally did not. I worked part-time my first semester and realized that I couldn't even really keep that up. However, I was working as a nanny, so it was like a job I actually had to be at and be present all of the time. If you work at maybe like a remote job that doesn't have specific hours, maybe they're just like, here's the work, do it whenever. I could see you possibly doing it. Would I recommend working in the program full time? No. But I think if you're good at time management and you have a flexible enough job, you could definitely do part-time. I know people who worked full-time in the program, and some of them just got it done slower. Like the program took them twice as long because they couldn't take as many classes and hold the job. And then other people were just really miserable and stressed out the whole time. So can you do it? Yes. Would I recommend it? Probably not. The next question, how many hours is the practicum? So I had to do 700 hours total, and 280 of those hours, I believe, yeah, that sounds right. 280 of those hours had to be direct client hours where you're actually doing therapy or talking to the client, interacting with clients in some sort of way. I honestly don't remember how many hours a week I worked because it very much varied by the week. My company does weekend events and stuff, so sometimes I would go to those to get extra hours. So if I had to estimate, I'd say maybe I was doing anywhere from 15 to 25 hours per week on average. But that was at my site. Your site might be different. It might have different requirements for interns. The next question is, how long did it take you to finish working the 4 days / 4 to 5 hours per day schedule? I finished mine in a little under a year. I started mid-January and finished mid-December. Did you have to use Tavera to track your practicum hours? So this is very, very specific to Pepperdine. Those of you who are already here probably have heard of Tavera. But the answer is yes. Yes, I did. It was fine. I will say a lot of the out-of-state people, like those who weren't living in California, their supervisors would make comments about Tavera because there are different regulations in different states. So some just require supervisors to sign off monthly. I don't really know. All I know is for Tavera it was weekly. So I remember my supervisor was always like, oh, gotta go on and sign this again. And then even on top of that, it had like signatures for, I think, like the final month, and it was a lot. But yes, I did use Tavera. It's honestly not that complicated to use. Pepperdine does make you pay for it, and they're like, oh, but it's worth it because it's like a lifetime thing. So even after you graduate, you can track your hours with it. Honestly, I just feel like that's unnecessary. If you're in the program, you have to purchase it. Like, it's not a choice. Yeah, but I feel like they really play it off as if it's like a benefit to you. Like, it will be a benefit to you in the future. And to be honest, you don't really need it. Anyway, back to the questions. Sorry, I just have a lot of strong feelings and emotions about this school, if you can't tell. Next question, feedback for navigating the practicum portion of this program. Try your best. No, but I did film a couple videos specifically talking about my practicum, so I'd suggest watching those because I don't really want to go in full detail about everything in this video. And I'm going to be honest, I don't really remember it that well. My biggest feedback would be don't overload yourself. If you feel like your practicum is overwhelming you and you just want to finish the program, so you're trying to add on more classes, but then your mental health is going down the drain because you have no time for yourself, it's not worth it. At that point for me, I had already stopped working, which, you know, not having a lot of money was a whole nother thing that kind of added stress. But for me, it really gave me the ability to like focus on the practicum and then also take classes on top of that. Sometimes people don't take classes on top of it, but I did. I took only one. So it was like the practicum, which is a class too. So you're doing the work in the practicum, it's also a class, and yes, you have assignments and readings you're supposed to be doing in that class, which don't get me started on that. And then I took like one more class. I guess my biggest advice would be like, don't push yourself too hard, because I promise you, if you get yourself to a place where you're at such a mental low just to graduate from the program early or, you know, on time what you thought, it's not going to set you up well for going into this field, like starting in the field. Not to mention, it's probably impacting the work that you're currently doing. Next question, did you graduate and what are you doing now? Yes, I did graduate. Surprise! No, I did graduate in 2023 December, and I actually ended up staying at the organization in which I did my practicum. However, I didn't stay on as a therapist. I could have, but I didn't want to. That's a whole nother story, which again, I filmed videos talking about why. So if you are curious, please watch those. I think I titled one like why I don't want to do therapy anymore, or there's one that I said like talking about my path, like my, I don't know, struggles of finding my path. Those are where I go more in depth about why I made that decision. But right now I'm working as a coordinator for a grief program at the organization. And I love it. I mean, there are pros and cons to every job out there, but right now it's good for me, and I definitely feel like I'm in the right spot. Was it tough to get a job with an online degree? So again, it doesn't say online on my diploma, so honestly, there's no way that companies would really know that it was online unless you told them. But that being said, the organization that I work for did know that because I was in my internship going to school while I was there, and they didn't really care. There's a couple of people too at my organizations who did online programs at other schools, and again, as long as you went to a school, met all the requirements, took all the courses, got a valid degree, I don't really think places care. And the last question is, if you had the chance to choose again, which school would you go to and would you still pursue an LPC? I get this question all the time. Especially in my Pepperdine videos, people are like, okay, well, if you don't like the school, what school would you have gone to otherwise? I did have like a couple other at the time that I had applied for, looked at. California Southern University was one of them. Grand Canyon University was another. At the time, they were good programs. Not sure the status of them now, but if I could go back and do it all again, I probably wouldn't get my master's, at least not in clinical psychology, just because realizing that I don't want to go into therapy, and I'm not really a big fan of like research either, so it doesn't benefit me. If I were to go back and had decided to get my master's, I maybe would have gotten into something a little bit more broad, like international studies. I am quite interested in doing some sort of humanitarian aid work possibly in the future, so maybe something along the lines that would help me reach that goal. But to be honest, I don't know if I would have gotten the master's. I think I was afraid of just being done, because getting a bachelor's in psychology is very broad, and on one hand that's good, on the other it was a little scary for me because I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, which is one of the reasons why I chose to get my master's in clinical psych, because I kind of was just like, I don't know what else to do. You live and you learn, I guess. So I don't know where I would have gone to school. I can say it would not have been Pepperdine. And I guess to answer the second part of that question, no, I would have not pursued a therapy degree or an LPC or anything like that. That is the end of the video. Those are the questions that I've gotten over the past few months. I always get more around like spring and summer, I'm assuming, because those are the times that people are like trying to apply for master's programs and find stuff out there. Again, please watch the other videos if you are interested in the content and if you want more information, because a lot of the more specific stuff I did cover in those. And I hope that this helped or answered some people's questions. Thank you guys so much again for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really does help. And I will see you all in another video. Bye.